5 life-changing fitness habits that didn't work for me and what I do instead. Nobody gaslit themselves quite like I did in my early to mid 20s when I was insistent that I was going to be fit and healthy. So, of course, I did what everyone does, and I go on the internet and I find things like Pilates, and I was going to be a Pilates princess, or these nifty things where you eat a handful of almonds every day at snack time and then basically only eat chicken. Or I would do these like challenges where I needed like abs in 30 days and all that sort of stuff. And then I look in the mirror and realize that nothing has changed. And in fact, I'm gaining weight. And I'm like, what the heck? I just signed up for all this stuff. Why is none of this crap working? Well, today I want to share with you 5 life changing fitness hacks that did not work for me and what I do instead. Because I cannot possibly be the only one who has not found meal prepping to be useful or helpful in some form or fashion. I cannot just be me. So if you're ready, let's get started. What's up, mamas? Alexandria here, 35-year-old toddler mom, licensed therapist for over 10 years, and self-professed gym rat. And after losing over 40 pounds naturally and in a healthy way, I feel like I finally cracked the code on weight loss and healthy living. And so my goal now is to help mamas and other women to achieve their goals in a hopefully more seamless way than I did. So if you love it here, please subscribe. First, we're starting off with a bang, which is meal prepping. Okay, look, if any of these work for you, I absolutely love that for you. I am not poo-pooing on them, but I know I cannot be the only one who cannot meal prep to save their life, okay? Because nobody hates being in the kitchen any more than I do. I absolutely hate being in the kitchen if I don't have to be. And what's worse is once you mess up a kitchen, then you have to proceed to clean it up. And I already make about 1,000 meals a day for my toddler, and I do not want to make any more meals. And so the idea of spending a Sunday afternoon meal prepping for an entire week sounds painful to me. And when I have tried it, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I even bought those little meal prep containers. They're around here somewhere. And that did not help me at all. All I did was try it for a week. I'm like, whatever. This isn't really working for me. But I did find something finally that actually has worked well for me, and that's been to buy pre-prepped foods. Purchasing meal kits like just meats, or going to the store. I did a video all about like super easy Sam's Club meals and things like that, and honestly that has been so much more effective for me to go grab the pre-prepared chicken, or the pre-prepared like taco meals and things like that, so that I can actually just have something at the ready without me having to prep it myself. Because when you think about it, like if you're creating a new habit and one of your new habits is going to be to like eat more at home, you actually have to build in 2 habits to do that. Not only do you have to eat more at home, but you have to make time to cook more food, which is fine if you've got the time and you love to cook. But I hate both of those things. And I have 0 extra time because I got crap to do. And so for me, meal prepping at home didn't work for me. But what has been really useful is to go to the store and pick out those pre-prepared foods and have those around. The other thing that has also helped is to have a plan in place. So it's not necessarily meal prepping per se, but having just a plan. So I know, when I start my day, I know what we're having for dinner, so I can build my breakfast and my lunch in around what we're going to have for dinner, because I know that's likely going to be my highest calorie meal for the day. So if we know we're ordering in Chipotle, or if we know we've got, some pasta that we're going to make, or whatever it is that we're making, that helps me to sort of stay the course and be able to like stay within, what I consider a calorie budget for myself without the need to meal prep. Now, look, I see all these beautiful Instagrams. I see Sydney Cummings doing all these wonderful meal prep ideas, and I love that for her. That seems to work really well for her, and so she cannot be the only one. But if you are like me and you have tried to meal prep and it has failed miserably for you, you are not alone. Give those things a try and let me know what you think. Number 2, eliminating fast food. Well, quite frankly, eliminating food generally, but that might even be like a whole more broad topic. But eliminating fast food. I hear people recommend this all the time, and I love it. I think it's absolutely great. The problem is that I am not in a season of life where that's really an option for me. When I have doctor's appointments for my son or things like that, sometimes it just feels necessary to stop for fast food. Is it the best way to fuel? Absolutely not. But sometimes that is what's reasonable and achievable. Now, I'm not saying that I eat fast food for every meal of every day or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that if you can't like actually cut out fast food, you are not alone in this, because for me, sometimes I just really have to have that convenience. Like, my son has a doctor's appointment after school. What do we got to do? We got to stop somewhere like a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A or a something and grab the food and go. And so that's what I have time for. So because I have not been able to fully eliminate fast food from my diet, I do a couple of things. So the first thing is I have done like my due diligence on the front end to figure out what meals are best from a macro standpoint from all the places that I like to visit. And actually, I saw recently a video on Instagram. I'll see if I can find it and link it, where a girl was going in and like using Chat GPT or AI to like tell her what the best macro friendly meals were at different fast food restaurants. They were like, she typed in something like, give me 8 macro friendly meals that you can get from KFC or whatever, give me, 5 ways to order KFC that's under 500 calories or 500 calories and under, whatever, some sort of like prompt like that. And that was leading her to like a list of foods or ways she could order different foods at places to best sort of fit within a certain macro limitation, which I thought that was really smart. I've never actually done that. That's what my husband's for. He's my little calculator. I borrow his brain for that. I also did make this was over a year ago at this point, but I did make a video where I did like healthy fast food, and I went and tried some different fast foods and ranked them. That video was over a year ago. It was a lot of fun to make, but I'll link that for you in case you're curious about, some of the ones that I tried. It's certainly not an exhaustive list, but I say that to say that what has worked for me though is finding those like macro friendly meals and sort of doing my research up front. The other thing that I have also found to be really useful when going through like a drive-through type of situation is to just prioritize the protein. I try to use a 10-100 scale or get as close to that as humanly possible. And so what that means is 10 grams of protein per 100 calories. So that's kind of like the gold standard for me, is if I can get a meal, and that's much harder to do in fast food than it is to do at home in your own kitchen, because it's just the way they make foods in like a fast food setting. That has been extremely effective for me if I'm just like looking at what is the highest protein standpoint. So for me right now at Chick-fil-A, my go-to meal is I get a small mac and cheese and the 8-count grilled nuggets. I take half the mac and cheese and mix it in with the grilled nuggets, and I put a little bit of buffalo sauce on it. And then I eat the rest of the mac and cheese on the side. And then usually, because my son wanted fries, because of course he did, I eat a couple of his fries. I don't tend to order my own like fries because I can eat those like a bottomless pit, and those are not the most macro friendly, so I try to like sprinkle those in. But the thing about like doing it that way though is that I'm actually full. I will say though, less so with like Chick-fil-A and more with like McDonald's. When I eat their fast food, I'm almost always sluggish afterwards. I don't know what it is that they got in the fast food. Like, I don't know what it is about fast food, but whatever it is makes me more sluggish. So be prepared if you're going to need to eat fast food during the day, that's probably the day you want to try to work out before you have to eat the fast food, not after, because you're probably going to be sluggish and tired. So just to prepare you for that. But overall though, I do find that this to be a functional and helpful method for me. And just generally speaking, the idea of cutting out any sort of food in particular is really hard for me. It just feels too restrictive, whether it be keto, where you're cutting out like certain kinds of food, or whether it be carnivore, where you're cutting out certain types of food. Those all just feel way too restrictive for me. And I have done restrictive in the past. Like I said, that the all chicken and almonds thing, I was always hungry and probably kind of, and because of that, like I won't go back to that. And also it's just not sustainable for me. Like I feel so much better when I have a full stomach. Like hangry Alexandria is not fun to be around for anyone. So I'm not going to do that to myself. And I know that if I fuel properly, I have better workouts and I just feel better generally. So we're not doing a deprivation starvation thing around here anymore. Like we're not doing that. No, girl, bye. Moderating the fast food, but doing it smartly. Let me know if you want more on that. I feel like that was a pretty good overview, but if you got more questions, feel free to leave them in a comment and tell me, what do you guys eat? What's your like go-to fast food meal? Hey guys, if you're finding this video useful or helpful in some way, could you do me a huge favor and give this video a thumbs up? It lets YouTube know that this is a useful and helpful video so that it can share it out to others like us who maybe haven't found success in the typical sort of fitness hacks that have worked for everybody else and want some new ones to try. All right, number 3. Now, again, this is one of those things where I've heard people do it and say it and recommend it, and I love that this works for them and probably would benefit me too if I felt like doing it. But quite frankly, I just don't want to, um, is cutting out alcohol. You put something off limits, all of a sudden it becomes extremely tempting. So for me, the thing that has worked is really just choosing alcohol in moderation. Again, I am not suggesting that you start drinking if you don't drink. I am not telling you that you should, especially if you're not of age to drink. Depending on what country you live in, 21, 18, whatever. I live in the US, so it's 21. So I'm not telling you that you should, but what I'm saying is if you don't have a history or problem from an addictive personality standpoint. And so cutting out alcohol really just like isn't a thing for you, like it isn't for me. The thing that I found useful to me is to see where it fits in my calorie budget. And so what that might look like is, when I'm taking a look at my macros for the day, if I've got like a little extra leverage, that's going to be the time that I'm going to potentially have that beverage. Or if I'm going out to like, some sort of dinner with the girls or whatever, and I might want like a glass of wine. Those are the opportunities that I take to drink. So I drink significantly less because I don't feel very well when I typically, like if I drink very much or too close to bedtime, I don't particularly feel well and it gives me trouble sleeping. So, there are good reasons not to drink alcohol. Absolutely. I'm not saying that there's not. But what I am saying, if you're like me and the idea of dry January for you is just like, you can do it. You just have to choose it in moderation. And often for me, it's often about not choosing it because it doesn't fit in my macros, or I know like the consequences of my body and how it's going to make me feel, or how poorly it's going to have me training the next day. So I don't tend to drink as often. And so typically it's no more than like once or twice a week maximum. And so because of that, I haven't felt like I needed to completely cut alcohol. Now, granted, like I said, if that has worked for you, if you've done like a dry January and you've loved it, you've lived for it, let me know. Maybe one day for a challenge, I'll try it. I don't know. Should we do a 30-day like dry challenge? Let me know in a comment. All right. The next one is no screen times at bedtime. Okay. Now, if you've watched my my bedtime routine, you kind of already know the answer to this question and kind of what I do, but I'll go over it again in case you missed it, and I'll link it in case you want to watch that video. But the idea of not having screen time like around bedtime, it just doesn't work for me. Again, this is one of those things where I feel like a lot of these things are based on the season of life that I am in right now. Right now, I live at home with relatively no screen time whatsoever because when my son is here, we don't really watch TV. It's not great for him to watch TV. I'm not judging you if you let your kid watch TV. I want to be clear about that. I'm just saying at our home, because of, the way that we kind of function things, there's just not a lot of screen time. And so for me, end of the day, bed and wind down, like after my son goes to bed, is the time I have to be on my phone, to scroll, to watch YouTube for the most part. To respond to comments and things like that. So I just can't make myself not look at my phone during the evening or like after dinner or whatever, because that's really when I've had time to actually look at it and catch up and like relax and chill for a little bit for the day. And yes, I understand like why from a sleep standpoint, you might want to consider like limiting screen time. But one of the things that has worked for me, and I feel like I'm very fortunate in that, my system is kind of working for me, and goodness knows I track it enough, I've got a Whoop and a Ultra Human, and I also have a watch that is just charging at the moment. Like I've got all the things to track my sleep. And so with that, I have found the thing that works for me is just to be conscious of what my screen time is going to look like. So for me, typically what that looks like is after my son is in bed, while I'm doing my cat's medication and while I'm kind of like getting ready for bed, things like that. That's the opportunity my husband and I might watch a show. Or if we're not watching a show together while I'm getting for bed, I'm watching some YouTube videos or things like that. But then once I get into the bed itself, that is when I try, I'm not always great at it, but that is when I try to switch over to using exclusively my Kindle Paperwhite. And that is what has worked best for me, is it gives me this like, okay, you're looking at your phone until you get into the bed. And then once you get into the bed, you need to turn your phone off and you need to read your book. And I don't find that I typically have too much issue with sleeping or anything like that. Now, I do take a sleep gummy that I have for, a long time once I switched over from melatonin. And I feel like that has been helpful for me to have too. I'm not recommending that you take that unless it's something that you feel like you want or need, because everybody's different and I'm certainly not a doctor. So, but I'll link that. What I'll do is I'll link my Amazon storefront that has all the crap that I mentioned in it, including those gummies that we've been using them for quite a few years now. We've really liked them, but again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not your doctor, so make sure before you start taking any sort of like supplements like that you consult your doctor first. But that has been a good strategy for me, and it's really helped me to, go to bed and wind down without feeling like I haven't like caught up on YouTube. You know, like I like YouTube. It's one of my primary sources of entertainment, not only to create content, but also just to watch it. And so because of that, I feel like I enjoy that screen. And there's no reason, there's a difference between like doom scrolling and not going to bed and setting that like intentional time. And so if you're finding that you can't just like turn your phone off or you're having trouble, set that intentional time, you know, set a start time and a finish time. Maybe you even set something on your phone. I know there are different apps that you can set to be like, okay, your phone's going into like sleep mode so you can't be disturbed or whatever. And something like that where like, you know, this is my cue that I'm going to turn off my electronic device and I'm going to switch over to a book or a Kindle or, you know, reading your Bible or whatever your like thing is at bedtime. So try that and see if it helps. And the last one is probably going to get me into some trouble and it's probably going to make some of you guys mad. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make you mad when I tell you this, because just because it did not work for me does not mean it will not work for you, but it has not worked for me. And that is Pilates. Okay. All right. Hear me out. Hear me out before you boo and throw tomatoes at the screen. There is a very distinct possibility that the reason Pilates has not been effective for me is because I A, wasn't doing it right, and B, wasn't working out hard enough. Because Pilates Alexandria was like several years ago, pre like weight loss and healthy living. And so if I dedicated more time and energy to Pilates, I might have seen better results. Okay. But for me in the past, when I would do Pilates, especially in my like 20s and stuff like that, that was like kind of primarily what I did. And I don't know if I was using the wrong instructors or if I wasn't working out hard enough, or I don't know what the rationale is, but what I do know is that I never saw any changes in my body, okay? And I think some of it is that everybody's body is different. Everybody's body likes different stuff. And so for me, that was never an effective workout strategy for me. I never looked like or never felt like I was able to achieve the results of these like women that I was watching and doing these workouts with. Okay. And again, that could very well be a me thing, but I can't possibly be the only one, right? It can't just be me. If it is, that's cool too. But, you know, I feel like it cannot possibly just be me who has done Pilates and felt like this is not working for me. And I love that people love Pilates. I love that. But part of the problem for me is when I am in a Pilates class, my mind is everywhere else. It's kind of like with meditation, and this is also something that I'm not great at either, is being in a meditative state, because I personally, my mind is going 1,000 miles an hour. Like that is when I am like checking off my mental to-do list, all of those things. And so not only did I not get results with Pilates, it also wasn't particularly relaxing for me. And so I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? This isn't working. This isn't effective. What has been effective for me, and if you're not new around here, this answer will not surprise you, but weightlifting. Strength training for me is extremely meditative. The reason being is because I am counting my reps. And there is something about counting reps that gives me the ability to shut that part of my brain off and focus on the reps that I'm counting rather than the 10 million list that's going on inside of my brain, because it's a very long list. It's quite exhausting. And because of that, you know, I am able to shut that off long enough because I'm counting, you know, 1, 2, 3. You guys know how to count. I'm not going to count for you. But, you know, I am able to shut that part of my brain off and count the reps rather than going through the mental gymnastics in my head. I mean, it's like Cirque du Soleil in there. And it's not very pleasant when you're trying to exercise and you have Cirque du Soleil in your brain. So when I do the weightlifting, not only have I seen results, which of course is absolutely, you know, part of the reason that I've stuck it out is because it makes me feel stronger and I can like physically tell the changes in my body from strength training, but also because it's very relaxing for me. It's one of the few times in my day that I can really sort of shut things off and shut the world out a little bit and shut the mental gymnastics off in my brain and count those reps and really like breathe in and pay attention to what my body is doing and what is like happening like externally rather than like inside of my brain. And so weightlifting has been the thing for me, and it is one of my favorite coping skills. And honestly, it's gotten to the point where it's like I need this coping skill because it really has become like my meditative state and my coping skill, and because other types of meditative things like actual meditation or journaling or Pilates or yoga don't work for me because of that. So hopefully this video has been useful or helpful. And I'd love to know for you, what of these work for you? What of these don't work for you? And if you love it here, I'd love if you would subscribe and stick around and let me be your non-judgy mom friend who comes alongside you to help you reach your goals. Until next time, bye friends.